Good morning and grab your cup. It is time for Coffee on the Coast. Good morning and welcome to Coffee on the Coast. I'm your host this morning, Tina Prigge. Delighted to be joined and welcoming back to the show, Chmura-Moore. He is the musical conductor of the Manitowoc Symphony Orchestra. I do want to say also thank you to Just Orthodontics for sponsoring our show this morning. Dylan, welcome back. You must be so excited getting this close to the performance of the Manitowoc Symphony Orchestra.
Oh, I feel it. There's energy in the air. Absolutely. I've got my cup and I can't wait for music making to happen next week.
Let's see if we can do like a little on-air cheers here.
Ding!
Ding!
Can we get an effect next time? Can you push a button where there's like a little halo, a little something?
On it. Wait, how about this? Ding!
There he is. Exactly right. Exactly right.
So this graphic is perfect for how I feel about the Manitowoc Symphony Orchestra.
I like it. It was wonderful.
Because here's what people need to know. The Manitowoc Symphony Orchestra, I'm going to put this graphic up, has their final performance of this season coming up, and it's going to be April 15th, 7:30 p.m. at the Capitol Civic Center. It is romantic era pops. And what is incredible about this is you have an internationally acclaimed pianist joining you on stage to play the Grieg Piano Concerto.
I'm so excited. He's been a friend of mine for a decade more, and we've never done a solo concerto duo together. He's only played with me as conductor, playing 2 piano concerto. We've never done a solo concerto with each other. So I'm really excited. This is our first time where we get to have this intimate connection, and I can't wait. He's fantastic.
Oh, that is so cool. That's really cool to think that you're hitting this benchmark together as musicians. Okay, so for viewers, Dylan, you were kind enough to share a few clips. Let's play a clip. So the pianist is Eli Kalman, and these clips get me so excited because let me just play them and you'll see why. Here, let's play this first one. So that is so powerful. That is just so powerful. I mean, it's up and down the entire keyboard. I don't have the musical language or knowledge to describe it. So tell us, Dylan, what are we seeing? Why is that so moving?
Well, let me say a few things. First, Ellie very graciously let me bomb a practice session that he was having one morning. So if you look at closely, he's got his hiking boots on. And if you look a little further in another clip, I'm sure you'll see his coffee cup down on the floor. So he just woke up, and I said, "What are you doing right now?" And I said, "Can I videotape you during your practice session?" He's like, so very graciously. He played a few moments that are big and monumentous from this concerto, and so that's how the whole thing opens. It's like 35 minutes of music, and this is how the music is this is how you're welcomed into the music. And you're right, it's these huge open block chords, and if you play the clip again, you'll see how extended his hand has to be across the keyboard, how they fly and dance over multiple keys up and down, as you said, the keyboard, both in these big block chords up and down, but also in very quick movements that require great dexterity, very fast over notes that happen very close together. And he does it in a way, specifically Ellie does it in such a way that does two things simultaneously. One, it states this pinnacle theme, the mood, the era, the harmony of what's happening, this monstrous width of sound, right? That opening chord that just gunk, but also with the shape that invites us for all the music to come. So when he goes from low to high, for example, you'll notice that he'll pause just a little bit there at the end, just in the smallest way, not to give too much away of what's all the music makings to come. And you'll see with this very intimate portraiture, how he expresses just one single key at a time after these long virtuosic runs. So this great combination of a lot of a lot of sound, a lot of chordal work, a lot of quick dexterity, but also just how expressive one note can be of when it's time to be played and how long it's played. I'd say run it again and notice when he picks up his finger, and notice how he places just one finger instead of getting bogged down with the him laying down 50 keys in under 5 seconds.
Yeah, let's definitely check it out again. I can't believe there's that much happening in that short of a clip. And viewers, let me know if you feel this way too. But as I'm watching it, I'm like leaning in. I just feel like it's inviting me into the rest of the music. Let's run that clip one more time. Oh, I'm not ready for it to end when it ends.
So I had a conducting teacher of mine a long time ago. His name is Ben Zander. He wrote a book called The Art of Possibility. It was a pretty famous book, New York Times bestseller, all that kind of stuff. But he encourages a sort of music making, and he's famous for coining this term called one buttock playing. So the idea is when you're sitting down at the piano or in particular, but it could be cello or whatever, and the music pushes you in a certain direction, left or right, forward or back. You mentioned leaning in. Well, if you notice, Ellie, as he prepares just to play the first notes, he leans a little bit to his right. He lifts his hand in such a way, and the music pushes him off his seat onto one buttock. And he plays, and he comes down and finds his balance and moves to another buttock, and so on and so forth. I think we should watch it the third time and just watch the one buttock playing. I was laughing to myself.
Okay, this is fascinating. I had no idea we were going to learn this new musical terminology, one buttock playing. And this is fascinating insight. Thank you. Okay, here we go. It's so cool to know what to look for the upcoming performance. So that is not the only clip that we have. Dylan, I'm going to play another clip and then let's dissect that one as well. Here we go. Oh my God, I love it so much.
So the previous clip was how you start the whole thing. The concerto is in 3 movements, and this is how we start the third movement. So after 20 or so minutes, some big bombastic things, some very sentimental and slow, tender, loving things, and then all of a sudden we dance. And so this third movement is basically a big dance. This is how we start this dance. That's when this music happens in the piece. And there's a couple things that I love about this clip. I wish we missed like the first like millisecond, unfortunately, whatever. My phone just didn't start in time, but we get the gist of it. There's these huge runs, and the way that Grieg writes it. So in music, if even if you're not a musician, I think you can understand this. We fit music notes into a specific measure. We call it a measure to organize when and to start and stop, and how fast to play certain things, and how to intellectualize rhythms and all these kinds of things. And typically, I don't know, if you're in 5th grade band or whatever, you have like 4 notes per measure or something like that. And maybe I'm oversimplifying this, of course. Maybe you're in high school, you have like 16 notes per measure or whatever. And I think Grieg puts in something like I don't know, like 147. I don't know what it is exactly. That's obviously too many, but
Okay.
he writes it in such a way that you can't even read it. It's so condensed and small. And he writes something over top of it. He writes something called a fermata. It looks like an eyebrow and an eye, which means to take something at twice its length. Basically, take as long as you need to get through all the notes, because it doesn't really make sense and it doesn't fit, but I don't know how else to write it, so I'm just going to write it to fit all in this one bar. And Eli just plays it like just blah, 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 blah. He doesn't stop, he doesn't pause. He's like, I'm just going to go through it. We're just going to run through it. We're not going to take any extra time. So it's kind of scary, because oh my gosh, is he really going to make it? Is he really going to make it? And he does. And the second thing I love about this is there's this dance room. But if we play things that are just straight metronomic and even, then I think we lose the sensibility of what this concert is, this romantic concert, emphasizing all the romantic isms that are present in the Romantic era: individuality, irrationality, leaning into feelings over intellect, these transcendent characters and godlike figures, and we need to have the individual have a place in this conversation. It's not about a king or queen telling you what to do or believe or whatever. It's about having truth and ownership in one's feelings and thoughts, and living into that. We have self-worth, and so to play it, you can, I don't know, anybody can do it. A computer can do it, whatever. And so if you listen very carefully, and you can still sort of tap your foot, Eli takes a little time. I'll exaggerate. He'll play I'm exaggerating, obviously, for clarity, but he has these little moments in here where I want to emphasize this and drag this and delay this and communicate that, yes, it's a dance, but I am my own dancer, and I have my own lyrics to my dance, or what have you, my own beliefs, and it comes from my specific culture. It's not just something that's blasé and without feeling and intention. Let's watch it again.
Yeah, and I just have to say, so I'm glad that you described it as a dance, because I did feel like I wanted to dance when I was listening to that clip, and then I had to ask myself, was it in double time? Because his hands were just speeding across the keyboard, and then I realized, no, this is real time, and I was so enthralled by the keyboard work, I forgot to watch the buttock move, so I don't know if it happens in this clip, so let's definitely watch it again. Here we go. Wow.
I think my favorite part of that clip is nothing what I've said so far. It is after he plays this bong gong ging, and he starts this run down the piano. It's extended from what would typically happen in music. It would typically be like half its length, and just make it nice and even and square with the measure. But what happened is Grieg extends it and extends it again and extends it again, and so it continues and continues and continues and continues and continues until almost the lowest possible note you can play on the keyboard. And being the personality and the character and the virtuosity that Eli has, he drives it forward. He doesn't necessarily speed it up, but he keeps the intensity going. And typically when we go lower and lower and lower on the keyboard or any kind of note, we lose the intensity. The stereotype is you get higher, it gets more intense, and you get lower, it gets less intense. Oftentimes it gets softer. It's a acoustical phenomena. You have to work harder in the lower range to have it sound as present and as intense as upper range stuff. And so what he does is somehow, some magic he has in his fingers, that it gets more intense as it gets slower. It gets more ferocious as it gets lower. And with this extended bit of run, you never know exactly when it's going to end. And so all of a sudden it's a little bit jarring, and it's I don't know. For me, it just makes me smile every single time. I hope I remember to keep on conducting playing this part. Can we watch it one last time just for that run? I think I made a reel of this on social media, and I think I try to emphasize just this, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, let's do it one more time. Here we go. I actually noticed he popped off the bench at one point. So we should let viewers know that this performance is definitely going to be a night to remember, right? This is April 15th at the Capitol Civic Center. So Dr. Eli Kalman, he is going to grace the stage and he's playing one of the most highly regarded concertos of all time, the Grieg Piano Concerto. And Eli is internationally acclaimed as a pianist. He is a performer, a recording artist, and he's performed extensively in Romania, Israel, Germany, Hungary, Japan, Canada, and the United States, including Carnegie Hall and the Kennedy Center for Performing Arts. He is renowned for his exceptional technique, which we've been watching, and his vibrant music making, also evidenced here. This is going to be so incredible, Dylan.
For me, it's most fun to make music with friends. Probably like it is, whatever, play a pickup game at the Y with friends or whatever, right? And so it's going to be a night to remember because of his acclaim and his stardom and how great the orchestra is going to sound, of course. But I'm so looking forward to this because there's just friendship on the stage, and I think when that happens, something different is in the air. I think there'll be a different kind of connection to communicate to the audience, a different kind of buzz between us, and able to anticipate each other's movements in a different way. And it's going to be, I'm going to want to do it again the next day.
Yeah, the dynamic is going to be exceptional and fantastic and so special and unique. And it's also so special that, we listed his credentials, and now Dr. Eli Kalman is going to be here on the coolest coast on the Capitol Civic Center stage, right? We're talking like Romania, Japan, Canada, the Kennedy Center, and Manitowoc. This is so cool. And so, folks, I don't think you want to miss this. I'm going to play another clip, Dylan. Let's dissect this. It almost made me want to weep. Like, there's just so much emotion. It's completely different than the first two clips.
Absolutely. So this is the middle movement. This is where we have the sentimentality that I was telling you about. Grieg wrote this concerto at a very happy point of his life. He was in his mid-20s. He had recently been married. He recently had a new child. He was having his kind of first big success throughout Europe, and he returned home to Norway to compose. And he was inspired by kind of a teacher of his, Robert, inspire, I guess. I don't know if it's a teacher or not, but his music was a teacher is what I guess I mean. Robert Schumann's Piano Concerto. And Robert Schumann was known for his exquisite sensitivity, I think, and bringing an audience really into whatever is happening in the most intimate and delicate ways. And Grieg seemed to be able to capture this really well. What he did with his concerto in general, but also here, is he was inspired by what was happening on the mainland, if you will, but he was also inspired simultaneously from folk song that he was growing up around from his native country. And never really before were folk songs, at least from his country, used or honored or felt like worthwhile as being real music, whatever real means. And so Grieg blended these two worlds for the first time and became a hero because of it. There's statues all over the place, his house is, a museum, all those kinds of things. And so in this, I imagine him in his little cabin out by his lake, with his new baby on the floor crawling around, and him just his eyes closed, dreaming, and feeling just these beautiful feelings that you have with such a circumstance. And so I think weeping is a really good way of describing it. So thank you for that. If we were to dissect it a little bit, here's some more of that virtuosity, but for the purpose of interpretation for musicianship. So if we want to think technical about it, it's in 3. It's 1, 2, 3, and in the bottom notes you're going to hear 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and there's some stagnation. In the right hand, you have to fit in 8 notes. So you have this 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1. Now that's a what we call a compound figure. 1, 2, 3. It dances, it waltz, whatever. And that 8 is something we call simple. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Nice and square, right? 2 different worlds living together. We can imagine what that means, I suppose, and think about how those 2 worlds can collide and live simultaneously in us. But what I wanted to point out in Eli's playing is he flows and he lilts and dances for the first little bit, bonking, gonking, gonking, and then he pauses and he fits in this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and down in a way that is, I think, organic and humanistic, without feeling the rush or push and stress of the formal metronomic bits about music. I have to play it in this rhythm. I have to play it. This is what it says on the page. He allows himself a little bit of breath to be who he is and to communicate his musicianship, his phrasing. And then after we do that for a few bars, then it becomes almost like a train, where it's very square, it's very rhythmic, it's driving, it gets loud, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, there's this fog, there's this expanse where all of a sudden he plays all these fast notes, and then it's just one note by itself, and you pause, and the world stops, and he finally resolves. And at the moment where he can't hold it on any longer, he has to release that note before it dissipates. He has to release that note before we all fall off our chair. He holds us as long as humanly possible before we all fall through his grasp. And at the right time, we feel satisfied, but not before and not after. Can we listen to it again?
I floated for a moment, I think, in that pause, right?
Yes.
Like you just kind of float with them, and then yes. Should we watch it one more time?
Please.
Okay, cool. Here we go. Wow. I just realized too, he's not looking at music. So he's playing this all by memory?
So in concert, right when he ended, the orchestra's supposed to come in, all the strings come in, and move things along and play a little bit louder, and push forward before he does this again. And I'm just listening to this now, and I'm thinking, I don't want the orchestra to come in. Can this just be enough? Can we just listen to that a few more times in concert and not have the orchestra? I don't know. There's one other thing that I maybe we listen to it one last time if you don't mind. There's one other thing I'd love to point out. So when he starts, he has this 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, right? And I mentioned 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, right? And typically, what would happen, the way I've sung it poorly, is you drive to 1. So it'd be 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, and you push the phrase forward. But if you listen closely, he pauses ever so slightly before he rearticulates the next 1. So exaggerated 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Again, exaggerating, and it's that just little pause. We're with you. We're riding your train. We're on the back of the horse and we're galloping, and then the horse is about to jump over whatever the bush, and as that horse leans down, it's this float, as you mentioned, And not only do we float for that last note that you mentioned, but I think Eli puts in these little moments of floating in between the fastest, most quickest of notes that allows us this expanse and this human way of breathing and feeling that I think is really rare. It's just fantastic.
Okay, knowing that, I do think we should watch it one more time. I just have to say, we are so fortunate that you are here giving us this sort of back end insight, this, this kind of what to look for, this deeper appreciation. Like on the face, it is wonderful and lovely. But now knowing what you're sharing with us and the fact that we get to see this on stage before we watch it, I just want to remind people this is coming to Manitowoc. The Manitowoc Symphony Orchestra is going to be playing on April 15th. It is the last concert of the current season. It's Romantic Era Pops featuring internationally acclaimed pianist Eli Kalman. And here's what Dylan was just describing. Oh, you just feel it like right here.
It's going to be a special concert.
I agree. Hey, we've got another clip. Do you have time for another one?
Please.
Okay, cool. Tell us what we're saying. Wow. Can I just say too, the span of his hand as he's attacking those keys.
I don't know if have you ever shaken like a grandfather's hand who's spent a long time working with his hands in his life, like how big those hands are and pillowy and soft and warm and all those things. These are Eli's hands. I just want to shake his hands all day. It's just fantastic. I work with my hands a lot, and I tell you what, they're not big and pillowy. They just feel like they're rough and like daggers. It's something about that, and the stroke and the way that he's able to approach the keys, I think, is special. So the way the concerto works is it starts with that big bombastic thing, the first clip we listened to, and then all the principal themes and motives and melodies and things are given to us, and 10 minutes goes by, maybe 15, and the music comes to a stop, and this is where the music comes to a stop. Right, this clip happens, and Eli's been performing with the orchestra and apart from the orchestra, and the orchestra's played alone for the first 10 plus minutes, and then all of a sudden the orchestra sits back, puts their instruments down, and Eli embarks on a cadenza, and it is an extended cadenza. It's written all out by Grieg, and in my score it's like 4 pages of music. And what happens, and I don't know how long he's going to indulge in this, but it's a cadenza is a place where your soloist who sits in front of the orchestra, delights the audience solo. So no orchestra accompaniment, just him doing his virtuosic artistic thing, whatever it might be. And so Grieg and many concertos are just written in a way that is just straight ahead, certain notes, certain rhythms, a certain pulse, and it's up to the performer to transcend that, to lift that off the page and bring life to it. It's not just like you see a melody and you sing the melody and that's good. You have to interpret this melody, I don't know, tenfold. You have to interpret the pacing of that melody tenfold. It's all free, basically. It's just this free, open thing that you have to make sense of in some way and then make the audience believe you, like you know what you're talking about. And so this is how this extended cadenza begins. And it could be played fast or slow. It could be played very metronomically or not. And what Eli does in this is, and he does a couple things I think expertly well. One, he really leans in on the harmony. So you really feel like, oh, it's going to resolve now. This is the dissonance, and we're going to go here. So he kind of takes you on a journey with the harmony. And I think that's really important. He gives you mile markers, and you feel comfortable as you go walking through the forest with him. The other thing he does really well is he uses the harmony in the notes to make it melodic. The first notes that he plays is just an arpeggio, bong, bing, gong, ging, gong, ging, gong. It's just a block chord, but played note by note. And he performs it in such a way that it sounds like a melody. It sounds like you want to sing it. Sounds like it has direction, and it's not. It's just a chord. And then after that, he complements this openness, this expanse of this arpeggiated chord with this little virtuosity, running on a motive up and down, super fast. But again, considering with direction, taking us on a journey instead of just yelling at us. Once upon a time there was this, and then this happened, and this happened. And, oh no, there's the big bad wolf, and da da da. I think he expertly tells us a story, and so we feel like we are on this journey together instead of just being played music at. But he's welcoming us onto stage. In some intimate way, like he'd put his arm around us and play all this stuff with us at the piano next to him. And so I wonder if we watch it again and we think about fast and slow, the high and the low, and how they are interconnected. But that's Eli's doing, I'd say, not necessarily Grieg's.
It's interesting that you mentioned that this piece makes us want to sing, because I truly felt that way when I was watching it more than the others. Like you almost just wanted to sing along. And I feel like there was a couple of notes that the combination made me think of the Ave Maria. Like I just felt like there was a little hint in there. And I don't know if that's purposeful or if that's just me hearing that because it's in my head or something, but
maybe.
Anyway, let's watch this again. Holy smokes. That's so beautiful. That is so beautiful. It's each one of these clips, I just don't want it to end. You're right. I could listen to it go and go and go. Okay, we've got one more clip if you have time, Dylan.
Okay.
Okay.
Can I say one last thing?
Yeah.
I don't know if we have time to watch that last clip again. I don't know if we need to, but
Okay.
there's something that happens with a performer and their instrument, right? You spend a lifetime together, more times than you spend with your spouse, I'm sure, right? Or whatever, right? You have this intimate relationship with this mechanical thing that you do, oboe, piano, whatever. Could be voice if you're a singer, right? And in doing so, there's this symbiotic relationship, and when to, I don't know, play it and have it play you of sorts, where you allow it to have its true character come out. And in those last 3 notes that he plays in that clip, he stops. I feel like the relationship changes a little bit. Instead of him playing the piano, which he has to do, of course, right? All this mechanistic things of pushing down a key and having the hammer strike the string and have it vibrate in such a way, and releasing it and have it dampen and all these kinds of things. He allows the piano to react to him. It's almost like the piano starts to have a relationship and speak itself in some odd way, because I can hear the hammer's release. I can hear the felt of the hammers slightly, just slightly touch and dampen the string, and it's all intentional. He has complete control of all this, and in the way that he is kind of coming away, it's almost like he is more blended with the piano. He's become this new, entity, that there's no intersectionality between the two. They are not silos. They are one thing, and I think it's the rarest, most beautiful thing.
What a beautiful interpretation. We are so fortunate that you're here providing this insight, Dylan. So one more time, I just want to let people know, you can take this in for yourself. You can see Dr. Eli Kalman perform the Grieg Concerto on stage with the Manitowoc Symphony Orchestra on Saturday, April 15th at the Capitol Civic Center. Tickets are now available at cccshows.org. What an incredible experience and a night to remember.
I'm looking forward to it. I hope we see a lot of people there. After party. There's always parties.
Yeah. What do you want to say about the after party?
Well, Eli hopefully will be there. Now he'll be there. Hopefully he's going to play some music there. There's a piano at the Stage Door Pub. If you don't know, right around the corner from the CCC. Last time, I think there was like 120 people or something that was there. People were walking away because it was so busy, which is fantastic. But now we've got extra bars set up and an outdoor space we can use because it'll be warmer. So I hope the whole audience comes over to the Stage Door Pub afterwards. And there's a piano inside. We've got some specialty fun drinks based upon the music that we're performing. Brahms loved Viennese lager. He loved Riesling from a very specific region in Germany. So much so that his last words have to do with tasting wine and enjoying wine. I don't remember them exactly, but it's something to the effect of, may I have a sip? And he takes a sip of his favorite wine from this specific region, which we're going to have at the after party. And he drinks and he goes, so good. And then he dies. I mean, I'm paraphrasing, obviously, but it's basically that. And I just think, anyhow, there's a deep connection with booze and Brahms. Anyhow, so if you enjoy the Grieg, enjoy the rest of the concert, because there's a lot more music that's happening than just the Grieg on this concert. That hopefully you can delight and shake Ellie's big paws and have some Viennese lager together, and maybe you can convince him to play some more music for us after the show ends at the Stage Door Pub.
Oh, fantastic. Dylan Chmura-Moore has been my guest this morning. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this really cool, insightful deep dive into the music of Dr. Eli Kalman that he'll be playing with the Manitowoc Symphony Orchestra. Thank you so much, viewers, for watching this episode of Coffee on the Coast. I'm going to play us out, Dylan, with a repeat of that first clip we listened to. Take care.
Thanks. Bye.